It's the fallacy of us leaving someplace and nobody fills the void. That's kind of the libertarian argument that I can't get on board with. It doesn't make sense. I can get on board with the pushback to like the neoconservative thinking that we can export democracy to every corner of the world. That does not work. We've seen it does not work in the Middle East. We've seen that it's bogged us down in places that we should not be.
We're going to talk about China's influence, and before we do, I want to just kind of give you a little bit of a refresher. On December 2nd, 1823, in his 7th annual address to Congress, President James Monroe issued his famous Monroe Doctrine, right? And it, quote, says, "We owe it, therefore, to candor and to the amicable relations existing between the United States and those powers to declare that we should consider any attempt on their part to expand their system to any portion of this hemisphere as dangerous to our peace and safety." That's a pretty reasonable idea from him. And the Monroe Doctrine was for the United States to have its own sphere of influence and prevent European colonization. We saw that all throughout Africa. We saw it all throughout Asia. How'd that work out?
Well, we just seen it. Monroe had just seen it leave South America, too, with the Portuguese and Spanish influence leaving.
Yeah.
And he didn't want that back.
But now, if he were alive today, he'd be like, what the hell are you guys doing? I said this very clearly. Right?
Wait, you're in Ukraine, but you're
not in...
His head would explode.
His head would absolutely explode. Now, I understand, like, you know, we've done some stuff in South America. We've had some, forays. We fought proxy battles, essentially, with the Russians in South America for decades. It's happened. I get it. I understand. But as Southcom Commander, Army General Lara Richardson, this is actually a woman, not somebody posing as a woman.
It's definitely a chick. Yeah.
Okay, definitely a chick. Said in 2022, we see the encroachment, we see the tentacles of the People's Republic of China in our neighborhood. She's 100% right. China has definitely decided that South America is a place that they are going to get heavily involved in, and it's on our side of the field, and we should be a lot more frustrated with our strategy in South America than we are. Here's one of the big kind of, this happens all over the world, but this is just one specific thing that's kind of a big deal. In 2019, the Chinese company Costco, not that Costco. C-O-S-C-O. Otherwise, they would just steal the Costco thing anyway. Signed a deal with Peru to construct a megaport near the capital of Lima.
Tonight, thousands of miles from its own borders, China's presence in the Pacific is expanding and getting closer to the US. China's Costco Shipping is building its first deep-water megaport in South America, an economic beachhead for Beijing in America's backyard.
That's right. And Xi Jinping is visiting this port later this year to inaugurate it.
That's how you know.
Inaugurate it?
Do you christen a port with like a bottle of champagne?
Do you pee on it with the really small egg roll kind of thing that he's got?
This will be his first trip to South America.
Talking about his...
I don't know what you mean. Why would you say that? I didn't say that. Why would you say that?
That just shows kind of the geopolitical importance to him that he's going to attend this personally.
Yeah, he's going to get on a plane and go over there and attend it personally. You're right. And so, look, just to give you some ideas about the port. No, look, this is important because this is
important.
Did I say important?
No, because port is important.
It's a pun. It's port. Important.
Can I just go back to being spray painted gold? I guess because that's better.
I'll give you that.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Son of a gun. But I'm not happy, Tim. I'm just kidding.
We are. You're not happy?
It's significant. It's significant that these things are happening because this is basically like playing chess, right? There's a long game that's going on here, and China is playing it way, way, way better right now than we are because we have our attention focused in other places that don't matter nearly as much strategically to us as South America, and we need to start paying attention. So this port has a depth of 60 feet, making it a deep water port. That's significant because it's the first port on South America's Pacific coast that is able to receive mega ships. And, obviously the bigger the ship, the less the cost is to ship stuff. So it cuts costs by 1/3. Wow. That's pretty big. So
and timing.
More profit. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be faster. You don't have to go through the canal and get around to the other side. You don't have to go down to the south, which is kind of the hardest way. You get more profit that way. And also Brazil wants access to this port.
Which is
That's
huge.
A big, big deal.
Because we've had the Brazilians in the office this week talking to great guys. Paulo, I was talking to him about this and he makes a great point. Brazil has 4 things that are very strategic to any war effort, which would be iron, food, population, energy. Brazil has all those things.
Yeah.
Well, now the problem with Brazil in regards to China, it's on the wrong coast.
Right.
So they'd have to come up through the Panama Canal, which the U.S. has a large influence over.
Right.
Now, if they can go straight from the other coast across the Pacific, right, to China, all of a sudden China can get a lot of things they need very quickly and establish a foothold there to our detriment and have influence over a country like Brazil. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And it's definitely not something that we want to allow to just go unchecked. Right. Now, this isn't go start a war stuff, but this is hey, we got to play this game a little bit better than they are. And there's a way to do that without starting wars, right? We'll get to that. So this is my favorite part of this.
It's so crazy.
Because of an administrative error, Costco has exclusive rights to the port. I don't know.
That's not something that can be fixed?
It's not a mundane detail, Michael. Giving them... What does that mean?
Oh no!
So when
we wrote an L instead of an R.
Well, they can't. They
is that your Asian voice?
I was an attempt at it. That was.
I shouldn't voice flame. Shame. I am the worst.
That was a nice amalgamation of every accent in Asia at one time.
That was my best South Park impression.
That was pretty good. But so when they were negotiating this deal with the Peruvian government or the Port Authority, something happened, and the Port Authority comes back later like, oh, sorry, we had some misunderstanding. Let's fix this. Costco says, no, we're not going to do that. And if you want to do that, that's fine, but we're pulling all our funding. So Peru passed a new law specifically to allow international companies to take exclusive control over ports just so Costco could have control over this port.
That's a pretty big detail. Can you imagine being the guy that proofread that contract and you're like, yeah, this sounds good? It's not a good deal.
Well, he probably has a heavier pocket.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Josh nails it. Corruption sucks.
Corruption with Chinese investment, I could not imagine.
In South America? Who knew? And this port obviously gives them greater access and control over regional resources like we were talking about specifically with Brazil. And it also means a potential use for the Chinese military, which if you know anything about the importance of having your military have a base on the other side of the world, it's kind of a big deal. We do the same thing. Right, we want to make sure that we have a presence in certain places that can kind of pop off at any moment.
A deep water, warm water port right by the United States.
Yeah.
What could you use strategically for that?
Probably nothing. They're going to fight the cartels for us. I hear that'll be great.
Pretty close to them too.
Yeah,
we
do,
should.
and that's fine.
We should absolutely.
But they didn't stop us from building them.
Pro America.
We can stop them from building these, so that would be helpful. And although Costco is a private company, Chinese companies abide by a concept called military fusion.
The CCP has adopted a whole-of-system strategy called military civil fusion that seeks to harness and synchronize all state resources. MCF incorporates civil society at home and abroad, including academic researchers into military modernization research and development programs.
Yeah. There's some reasons that we've not allowed certain technology to come over from China because every single thing that they do, they get their tentacles in somewhere. It's not just a product. It is a platform to communicate information back, just like TikTok, back to the Chinese Communist Party.
Every single
thing that they do.
By law, they are required to. Yes.
And that is something that we don't have an understanding of. We're like, oh, we're against free trade. No. We're against Trojan horses.
No.
That's no. And so in March, a congressional probe actually discovered communication devices on Chinese-made cranes at U.S. ports. Now, I'm not sure exactly what they were communicating
They didn't
back.
know. They're like, these communication devices have nothing to do with the cranes picking up stuff and putting them on land.
Which is all that cranes should be doing.
Can you imagine crippling our ports, like if they just switched something off?
Yeah. You remember what happened? What was it?
Remember the trucking fiasco we had?
Yeah, we had the trucking
COVID?
issue. Yeah. That's right. That's the trucking issue. It wasn't a shipping issue because the ships were out there. They didn't have enough truckers and trucks coming to the ports to actually do this, and product was just ruining.
Yeah.
And people were just having to stay out on these ships.
I think inflation's bad now.
Yeah, it would be absolutely terrible. So this is one of those things where it's like, look, you got to be on your A game a little bit. Energy is one of those, access to resources. Got to make sure that you can provide for yourself. We were energy independent under Donald Trump, and then we became terrible at energy day one because he killed the Keystone Pipeline and many other things.
Do we want to send our products to South America?
We would like to do that as well.
Right? We make a lot of money there ourselves.
Yep.
What if all of a sudden we can't access their ports?
Well, and look, it's not just Peru. This is a trend. China, since 2005, has invested $155 billion in Latin America and the Caribbean. 22 Latin American countries are part of Xi Jinping's flagship policy. It's nice to be on the flagship team, I guess. Yeah. The Belt and Road Initiative, where they give a whole bunch of money. And the influence includes major projects in places like Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, and Ecuador.
Brazil's president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, and his delegation are on a mission largely focused on boosting trade and investment with China.
Colombian President Ivan Duque announced on Thursday that the consortium APCA Transmimetro, which includes the Chinese companies Harbor Engineering Company Limited and Xi'an Rail Transportation Group Company Limited, was chosen for the construction of Bogotá's long-awaited metro.
The hydroelectric plant Coca-Cola Sinclair. That plant, with a power of 1,500 megawatts, could provide electricity alone to all the homes of Ecuador.
The project cost more than $2 billion and was financed with a $1.7 billion loan from the Export-Import Bank of China.
In the middle of the Patagonian desert, there's nothing but dust and distance markers for miles until you arrive here, where the Chinese have invested $50 million in a base they say will be used to explore the dark side of the moon.
Because that's important.
Wait. Hold on. The dark side of the moon, you mean the side of the moon that is always, forever facing away from the planet, the ball, or flat Earth for the 7 people on the planet who believe that? That dark side of the moon, you're telling me that you could put some kind of a satellite dish here and what did they have, like some giant mirror in space that it just bounces off of? They're bank shotting to the dark side of the moon. Did anybody stop and go, that project doesn't sound like what they say it is? It sounds like $50 million being invested here for some other purpose than just exploring the dark side of the moon from Patagonia? Did nobody think this through? Is it just me? Is this just me?
That sounds legit to me.
Yeah, it sounds way above board.
I mean, I don't know anything about science.
Am I taking crazy pills?
So,
you don't know much about the dark side of the moon? Guess who else doesn't? Guess who else doesn't? Anybody.
Well, China did just go.
They just went there. That's how you study the dark side of the moon.
I'm not saying I don't know enough about satellites to say that you could never. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. Potentially,
I'm not. Listen, I've seen Independence Day, and it is line of sight, my friend.
Potentially, this direct TV dish can see the dark side of the moon. I do not know, but
it's not true.
They just had to.
It could be reflecting the signal in space.
From where?
The sun,
the moon,
from Titan.
They're from they use the sun.
Time out. Let's let Tim have some rope here.
What? There's no satellites orbiting the moon?
I don't think the moon.
Do you think there are, Tim?
Gravitational.
No, there aren't.
How do we know?
That's a good point. I want to say we do know.
We don't, but we do.
So I win.
You don't.
Research.
I'm just saying there are no satellites orbiting the moon.
Let's just say
and even if
I don't think
were,
they could, because I don't think the gravitational pull is strong enough to.
I just hate.
That's right. It probably isn't as
all of you.
They orbit us. The moon orbits the planet, right?
I feel like we're getting a little into the weeds on this, to be honest with you.
I just wanted to derail the show.
Look, maybe there's weeds on the dark side of the moon. We don't know what's going on.
And this is what happens in the government, and they stop thinking about South America and the problems that China's causing us there.
Hyper
They get focused on the
sensitive,
moon.
intelligence gathering capable satellite smack dab in the middle of Argentina. Why is it there?
There you go. That's the main
question.
point here.
It can probably also see the dark side of the moon.
Hold on. What?
NASA's lunar reconnaissance orbiter orbits the moon.
See?
What is that?
It's
science.
It's something in the moon's.
Is it a satellite that orbits the moon?
Yes.
Hold on. Is it a satellite that orbits the moon forever? Like it's just up there?
Not forever.
I know, but I mean, is it like a temporary thing where they're doing some, missions and then coming back, or is it a satellite like these guys said that orbits the moon?
I think it's Optimus Prime.
Just hanging out, beaming direct TV to Martians.
As of July 2023, there are 6 active lunar orbiters.
That's a lunar orbiter. Does that mean it's a satellite
orbiting the moon?
Look, I'm sorry to anybody who came here for an education.
All right, now listen. We're going to come back to this in 1 second. In 1 second, we're going to come back to this.
Mo Club will have a good conversation.
I don't feel like I'm completely wrong, but I understand I may be a little wrong here, so the admonish button may be necessary. But before that, China is also South America's largest trading partner. Between 2000 and 2020, trade volumes increased from 12 billion to 315 billion.
Holy moly.
That is a lot more billions, and is expected to reach 700 billion by 2035. Again, lots of money.
Why is China the top trading partner for a continent that connects to us?
With our backyard.
Right? Yeah, it doesn't.
Because they're going after resources, we're not. They're a growing economy, even though we don't like the kind of economy they are, and they have their eye on the prize. Diplomatically, China is also, they're doing way better than we are. From 2017 to 2023, 5 Latin American countries, this blew my mind. 5 Latin American countries switched diplomatic recognition from Taiwan to China. Why?
I think there's only 11 or 12 left in the world that actually diplomatically recognize Taiwan at this point.
This is stupid because China's power is just getting too
But
big.
Paraguay, based Paraguay.
They are based, yeah. We appreciate that, Paraguay. What about Argentina?
No, they don't.
They don't recognize
Paraguay
Taiwan?
is the only one on the continent.
Can we get Milei to
we don't recognize Taiwan.
Yeah.
We don't even do it.
I know, but should we?
I think.
Yeah, we should probably do that. So why are they so successful? This is not that hard, right? And so we went to somebody who knows really, really well what is going on with China and what is happening in South America. And we spoke to Chris Chappell at
Chapel.
It doesn't have the E on the end. Chris, I apologize. Chris Chappell, 2 P's, 2 L's, at China Uncensored. And he said, Latin America has a practical problem. Loads of valuable natural resources, but poor infrastructure and poverty. The lack of development is largely due to socialist policies and leftist ideology. It's run amok down there. You're absolutely right. That's why the CCP is seen as such an attractive partner. It promises development and is seen as an alternative to America, which, besides the ideological motivations for these countries to not want the U.S. around, the U.S. just isn't providing investment. So that last part, the United States is not prioritizing investment in South America, where China is. You should probably look at that. There used to be a rule that wherever McDonald's built a location, you should buy land around it, because McDonald's was world class at doing the research and figuring out what areas in the country would start growing, but they would do it before most other people would. That's the kind of mentality we should have when China starts taking an interest somewhere. They know something that we don't. Not always, but most of the time, and we ought to be paying attention. And this one's not hard. This is our backyard.
Yeah,
we should not be surprised in our backyard, okay? You want to talk about somewhere over in remote Africa and China's got a beat on something that we don't? Fine. I can give you that one. That's not in our backyard. Maybe we missed it. But South America? Come on, right? And Joe Biden's priorities at the G7 conference, he said Ukraine would be prioritized above all other countries, because that makes sense.
We have acquired commitment from 5 countries so far for Patriot batteries and other air defense systems, as well as we've let it be known
standing so far apart because Biden shit himself
from us air defense systems in the future, that they're going to have to wait. Everything we have is going to go to Ukraine.
It's the dumbest statement I've ever heard.
And then we'll make good on the commitments we made to other countries.
Maybe, don't say nobody else can have arms right now. World, feel free to invade whoever you want. We don't have enough resources because we've committed to Ukraine. But look, we made a similar point on this show just last week. We're depleting munitions for potentially a much more important, and I'm not minimizing the Israel-Hamas conflict, but they're going to take care of that on their own, it seems, like without too much problem if people will let them. But China and Taiwan, we need those kinds of munitions for Taiwan. So the more that we send over to Ukraine, the less that we can send to Taiwan,
right,
some aspect. And unfortunately, the president just told the world.
Yeah, you'll have to wait.
Wouldn't be able to fulfill their commitments. I mean, they signed a 10-year security agreement with Ukraine.
Yeah,
that's
so
good.
It's an executive agreement, so Trump can come in and say no.
Yeah, he should. Yeah. Day one. And Mr. President, please make sure you do that. We don't need a 10-year security agreement with them. Let Europe handle Europe.
How long are they expecting this war to last? Crying out loud.
Yeah.
They're going to bring them into NATO.
Like, you guys going to do war like we do war. 21 years.
That's right. Otherwise, it's not real war. And look, we should be focusing on the most existential threats, and that's China right now. And
full stop.
That's it, right? And we need to make sure that we are not. Now, you can pull out of certain agreements that maybe don't make sense in those regions, 100%. Right? But you cannot leave those regions to just kind of develop on their own and hope that they don't develop with a hatred towards the United States, because China doesn't like us. China wants what we have, but China wants to do things so that they can dictate the terms of our relationship. And look, I get it. You're saying, well, the United States is trying to do the same thing. Yep, and we just need to do it a little bit better than they do, because we don't want somebody who doesn't understand freedom of speech, doesn't understand gun ownership, doesn't understand human rights. Even though there are problems on both sides, we don't want them dictating the rules to everybody else. So you get to pick them or somebody else dictating the rules. I pick somebody else other than China. That's just me.
It's the fallacy of us leaving someplace and nobody fills the void. That's kind of the libertarian argument that I can't get on board with. It doesn't make sense. I can get on board with the pushback to like the neoconservative thinking that we can export democracy to every corner of the world. That does not work. We've seen it does not work in the Middle East. We've seen that it's bogged us down in places that we should not be. There are places we should be invested because it directly affects the prosperity of American citizens. East Asia is one of those because of the economic importance. South America is another one because we do so much trade with that part of the world and we have so many cultural connections. And look at the immigration problems that will happen if South America goes to shit.
Yeah.
You think it's bad now, people coming up to Mexico trying to get in? You think the drug trafficking problem is bad now? Now imagine the continent's plunged into war or it's used as a war vehicle for China's ambitions. Then things get exponentially worse. This will directly affect the well-being of the American citizen. It is not what, I'm sorry, I love the Ukrainian people. I wish them the best. I want them to, I like sovereignty. I want them to win. What happens there has very little effect on the daily lives of an American citizen.
I agree, 100%. And like I said, Europe should take care of Europe. And by the way, just so you know, when China comes into these places, huge debt burdens, humanitarian abuses happen. The local people typically are impacted. They do that to themselves all the time. If they're going to do it to their own citizens, they're of course going to do it to citizens they could care less about, right? We should take advantage of that and offer more favorable investment opportunities, right? We should take advantage of the fact that maybe we won't go in and completely wreck your place. Now we have to do that, meaning we have to not wreck your place. But we should be able to do that right now. You can look there and see what they do when they go into a region and go, hey, how about you have a better partner than that? There's an opportunity for us, right?
There's money-making ability for us there.
Money. Peru is courting American investment for another port in the country south, and we should absolutely jump on that, right? Washington should promote more diplomatic exchange and target Latin American countries for what we call friend shoring, right? Where if you can't bring something back onto your shores, you at least bring it onto a friendly country shores closer to home.
Maybe we don't want our supply chains running through Shenzhen. Maybe we want to run them through Lima or Brasilia.
I don't know who Shenzhen is.
You definitely do. You definitely want to go through South America because you make these countries better, you make them more profitable, make them more prosperous. They don't want to come here.
Yeah. Now, it's not our job to build these countries up, but as we serve our own
responsibility to help them out. If we're going to be sending money to Ukraine to lose a war, sending money to the Middle East,
it needs to be the secondary focus. I understand what you're saying, but we can never make a country prosperous. That's not how we do it. We've tried. We've sent countries billions of dollars throughout the years. It can't happen. But what we can do is do smart business deals with these countries that benefit us as well. And that can lead to growth and benefit in those countries, not just giving them money to develop and hoping things don't get stolen. You know what I mean? You say just give them money?
I'm not saying just give them money.
Okay.
I'm saying we should be doing that. We should
do partnerships.
The well-being of those countries is in the direct interest of us.
It is.
And so I think Josh is 100% right. I get where I think you guys have the same point. I think you both have the same point.
Yeah. Do it through business deals, not money. Maybe I was misunderstanding what you were saying, but hey.
I'm just adding another point that, it helps with many more issues than just fighting this, I don't know what you call it, but I get this battle against China for global dominance. It's not just about that, Well, and there's other benefits to going to South America and investing there.
My man.
Yeah. Businesses going into South America.
People look at it very one-dimensional, and I don't know, it just kind of, not bothers me, but it's weird to me that there's so many other good reasons.
Yes.
To go be doing this. It doesn't have to be we got to beat China. I hear that so much, got to beat China. China's trying to beat it. And I don't think they're trying to beat us. I think they're just trying to be number one. And if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best.
Yeah, well,
that's the state of the world. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Very obvious thing there, but
yeah. No, but China is trying to beat the United States on the global stage. They're trying to become the player that gets to dictate terms because obviously if you can dictate the terms, you win. You get more. Fine. It's not like a race to see who can get most of the pie. It's just not all countries are equal, right? And not all systems, not all cultures are equal. I don't want that culture
the
cut
global
out and put
pie,
on every other.
Like Steve makes a point about capitalism that the pie can keep growing, and that's true within America, right? But on the global stage, there is sort of this finite pie that people are fighting over. So it is this power competition that Josh is talking about. And the way that they become powerful is by stopping us from growing our influence. It's why Monroe wanted to prevent things like mercantilism in South America. It's because if these colonies, if the Portuguese and the Spanish could say, no, you can't trade with the United States because you're essentially our property.
Right.
well, then all of a sudden that really inhibits the United States economy from growing, and it stops the United States from prospering. That's what China's trying to do right now.
Yeah.
It's just the way of the world. Josh is correct.
Well, and one of the things that we should probably be doing is strengthening our military alliances and our ties with them. Javier Milei, love this guy, has encouraged this trend, saying in April, the best way to defend our sovereignty is to strengthen our strategic alliance with the United States and with all countries that embrace the causes of freedom. That's a big one right there. And the opportunities, absolutely there. Afuera! 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 I'm just quoting the Pope. Sorry, my bad.
He's also from Argentina.
He is, yes. Yeah. The opportunity is definitely there, and the U.S. is not doing. We're just not doing a good job of it. As Peru's foreign minister said, the United States is present almost everywhere in the world with a lot of initiatives, but not so much in Latin America. It's like a very important friend who spends little time with us, who's not really a friend, apparently. We send a lot of resources around the world. We're ignoring things that are happening in our backyard. So if we are going to do, like Josh said, it's helpful for the people around us to be doing well. We can't force that. We can't overspend to do that. We can't do bad business deals to make that happen. It can't just be government money going down there. It has to be partnerships that make sense financially for everybody involved. Then I'm all in on stuff like that. But we're not doing that right now. China, they are. That's a really, really bad decision for the United States, and it will have a cost to us at some point. And you could end up with some conflicts or at least tensions being flared up that don't need to be flared up. And by the way, when we're sending everything over to Ukraine right now and telling the rest of the world they're going to have to wait on munitions, China sees victory. China sees an opportunity to take out the United States as the dominant player, not to just wipe us off the map. I'm not sure if they want to go to war with us or not. What I do know is that they are hungry for resources and they want to be number one and dictate the terms that they take those resources on. That's what they want. They're doing it. They're showing us. Are we going to do anything about it? I don't know. When Donald Trump comes back into office this next year, hopefully we will get on top of South America. Watch Slider with Crowder live Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.